Hello, I'm Mark Hammett, minister of the Weber Road Church of Christ in Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm glad you've joined me for this daily devotional and Bible reading, and I hope that you'll be encouraged by it, and I'll give you something to think about seriously today, as every day. We're going to be reading from Matthew 22 in just a few moments. I hope you'll turn there. Matthew chapter 22. I'll be reading from the English Standard Version. You're welcome to follow along with any version. Anybody here find it hard to love people who are just mean, who try to put you down? How about those who get in your face and try to prove how wrong you are and how right they are? Those that maybe approach you with a bit of arrogance. And I have some predictions that might surprise you, coming from a minister who really doesn't talk politics from the pulpit unless it relates to a moral issue or maybe some illustration that needs to be used, and on very rare occasions. But it's less than 2 months until our presidential election will be over. And here are some predictions. About 40% of our country will call President Trump all kinds of names. A jerk, a racist, an egomaniac that should not be in any position of power. Another prediction, another 40% will call Senator Biden by all kinds of names. He's a corrupt politician that's been there for life. He accepts socialism. He's unfit for the position of power, are things that you'll hear people say over the next couple of months. And then there are those who will not vote because they don't like politics. They don't want to pay attention to it. They don't want to be involved in it, so they've excluded themselves from the whole process of electing a president. You know, we see constant, strong, sometimes very ugly opinions that are expressed throughout the media, and you'll also see it when you're in conversations with individuals. It's okay to discuss those things, but again, we have to keep them in the proper perspective in our Christian life. And we have to be careful how we say certain things and the words that we use. It doesn't take a prophet to know that the things I mention are going to happen. They already have begun to happen. We all have our opinions, and we've, in our country, learn to express them to those who will listen, and then sometimes to those who don't like to listen. But let me give you the most important questions I should say, for God's people. And here they are. Consider these in the next 2 months and beyond. How do I keep God as my priority in life? How do I seek His kingdom first? How do we please Him every day with all the ugliness that's in the world? Consider those questions as we read this passage found in Matthew 22, starting in verse 23. We'll see how far we get. The same day, the Sadducees came to him, who say that there is no resurrection, and they asked him a question, saying, "Teacher, Moses said if a man dies having no children, his brother must marry the widow and raise up offspring for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers among us. The first married and died, and having no offspring, left his wife to his brother, and so too the second and third, and down to the 7th. After them all, the woman died. In the resurrection," remember, they didn't believe in it. "In the resurrection, therefore, of the 7, whose wife will she be? For they all had her." But Jesus answered them, "You are wrong, because you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they will neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. And as for the resurrection of the dead, you have not read what was said to you by God. I am the God of Abraham, and of the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not God of the dead, but of the living." And when the crowd heard it, they were astonished at his teaching. Verse 34. But when the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. And one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. "Teacher, which is the great commandment in the law?" And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend all the law and the prophets." And now while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question, saying, "What do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he?" And they said to him, "The son of David." He said to them, How is it then that David in the Spirit calls him Lord, saying, The Lord said to my Lord, Sit at my right hand, until I put your enemies under your feet? If then David calls him Lord, how is he his son? And no one was able to answer him a word, nor from that day did anyone dare to ask him any more questions. This is nearing the end of Jesus' ministry on this earth, before he went to the cross and died and was raised from the dead. But again, realize that when we think about what God wants us to focus on in our life, you may have hobbies, you may have opinions about politics and sports and all types of things in life. But realize your number one priority is to always be to seek God's kingdom first. To love the Lord with all your being. And if I can do anything to encourage you to do that, it's a great encouragement to me to read this, and I hope it's an encouragement to you, and you'll read it again and again as you hear so much of the ugliness that's going to take place in the next couple of months, and probably for the rest of our lives, as far as that goes. But may the Lord bless you richly as you seek to follow His will.